Good morning, friends of Reuzel. Happy Monday. Thanks for joining us again. Today we have our friend and fellow Scumbassador, Paul Taylor-Clinch, joining us to educate you on the ways of the lard. He's hailing from jolly old England, home of the cuppa, good pint, fish and chips, and Mary Poppins. And with that, we thank you for joining us, Paul, and I'll let you take it away.
Cheers, friends. I appreciate that. As Fran said, my name is Paul Taylor-Clinch, and I am from jolly old England, even though it's terribly not jolly. The weather's terrible, but it is what it is. So, guys, first of all, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm super excited to do another one of these videos. Honestly, it's always so much fun just to show you guys and interact with you a bit more rather than just on like the Instagram. So, so today we're going to do like that classic side part, but today I wanted to show you guys something a little bit different. So usually when people film or take photos or anything like that, you're always trying to find that perfect model and that perfect head of hair. And Ryan's a good client of mine. I've been cutting Ryan's hair for nearly 3 years. But as you can see on Ryan's head, if Brad comes over, that's it. I know it's Monday, chat. So Ryan is slightly finer on the top there, just ever so slightly, but we're still going to make it work. We're going to do something that's going to work with our client. And then Ryan's a brilliant model because he is your everyday customer. It's not like you're just doing a customer for a photo shoot, even though I've taken pictures of Ryan before because he has that amazing classic look. He has these amazing sideburns, and he just loves that sort of like 50s style look anyway. So we're going to go for that sort of classic side part today. One thing I want to show you guys, I've literally just wetted it and brushed it back. If you can see there, because people ask all the time, like, how do you know where to part the hair? Or anything like that. How do you know? Because is it too high, too low? Whereas all I did was brush it back, and you can see this big gap here where the hair is separated. So the hair is telling me where to go. Okay? So then I can just refine it, make it a little bit neater as it comes on through. That way then, I know that all the hairs are going where they want to go. I'm not forcing the hair. Really, the only haircut where I actually force the hair to do what I want it to do is basically a flat top, because then I'll use, say, like a thick Denman brush rather than just a vent. And anyway, we love, obviously I love Reuzel as much as everyone else does. But, you may have heard Rob said it a few times, and I've said it a few times as well. I think even Milky, who's still in Holland now, the young American chap, one of the best products in the world is water, and that's because it allows me to see what the hair wants to do. I remember a classic haircut should always be able to come backwards, and you can see I can style this just with some water. Yeah? But anyway, guys, we always love to hear where you guys are watching from. Message in the comments. If you have any questions, please let me know. And I'm sure I'll get told what they are. And of course, I'll do my very best to answer if I know the answer, which hopefully I do, but we shall see. So that's my parted side done. On the opposing side to my parting, I'm going to carry on with our normal baseline area. So I'm going to go to the front of Ryan's hairline, come across here, make a small, I was going to say incision there, but that sounds a bit like a surgeon, doesn't it? I'm going to make a small incision here. That's how I'm finding where the top bit of my base is. I'm going to follow that around the head, and that is going to attach to our parted side. So guys, what you should have is a section that looks like this. If we were doing, say, a pompadour haircut, I'd make it so it's symmetrical on both sides, going from that hairline at the front of Ryan's head. But as we're making a side part, I'm going to have that side part already in place. We're going to have almost like more of an acute triangle kind of shape. So, because we're going to use triangles to make squares, rather than maybe in hairdressing, you tend to use triangles maybe to make circles. So, to start with, like any of our haircuts, I'm going to follow my baseline around Ryan's head, just so I get that perfect shape that fits my client. Yeah, so I'm going to use his skull structure to help allow me decide where it's going, how high it's got to go. Because remember, when you're pulling up and you're doing your 90 degrees from the head, the only difference, if I was doing a long trim, is how far from the head I'm going. Yeah? 90 degrees is 90 degrees. How close you are and how far you are is the only difference. So that's all I'm going to say about that. So let's start our haircut. I'm going to start at the back because I'm going to go with Ryan's occipital bone here. I'm going to come out 90 degrees and just chop it off. We are going to go quite short with Ryan's hair today, so I'm going to go a little bit tighter. And then the one thing I tend to find works really well, if the client does have a finer hair on the top, if we go shorter at the sides, it's going to take your eye away from that, therefore creating that almost illusion that the hair on top is actually more fuller than it is. And I'm just working my way around his head. Usually when I do stuff like this, I'll use like the pink lavaliers and the pink scissors, but today, fancy the change. So I'm just going to use the English one. So it's so cool. I'll get into a little bit of lavaliers when we get to like doing maybe some fade work. But for me, I really like them, especially for teaching and educating, just because of the clicks. Because that way I can be a lot more consistent with my teaching and be like, right, 2 clicks, 1 click close. Rather than, all right, you open it up a little bit, then a little bit more. And I'm a bloke, right? So I exaggerate a little bit. Oh dear. It's so weird doing terrible jokes and no one can see, because I don't know if they're not laughing or if they are laughing, it's like a cringy laugh, you know what I mean? So, I'm going to carry on following this shape around Ryan's head. And again, I'm coming off 90 degrees from his head shape. So if you're more hairdresser based, what I was doing just then is the same thing as diagonal cutting. I'm creating that graduation, but I'm using my comb instead of my fingers to come in. So I'm doing diagonal cutting. Instead of the scissors there, I'm just simply using my clipper and my comb. And if you come this side, Brad, you can see these hairs here where I've already cut. And so I'm following that guide as if I was doing the exact same thing with my fingers following around the perimeter of the head. The thing that I love about doing it with my clipper though is simply time. I hear a lot of people, especially at hair shows or hair events, and the big thing that everyone says on stage or doing a demo is they all say quality over quantity, right? Which is great and it's amazing, but unfortunately in England everything's expensive and I've got bills to pay. So I prefer the term being efficient. So what I'm doing is being efficient with my work. That way then I've done pretty much the rough baseline of my whole haircut in like a couple of minutes. That's why it's good to show you guys that diagonal cutting, but with my comb and my clipper to get that sort of graduation coming through. That way then, that allows me more time to refine and detail my work in the allowed time slots that I have for my clients. So because the comb and the clipper, because the clipper moves obviously a lot faster than a scissor, I'm going to refine it with my scissors. I'm simply just going to pull the sections out and just make sure everything is nice and neat. So you can see everything, if you give me this, Brad, just part aside a second. You see when I brush his hairs down, everything is blended already. So usually, like a guy, if they're trying you out for the first time getting a haircut with you, say you do an amazing fade and you cut an amazing style at the top, they're always looking at that that parietal ridge. So basically, they're always looking at that squarest point of the head, and they're always going to wonder until the very last point of the haircut, are they going to blend that bit out? So as you see, we've actually done that at the start of our haircut. And what that allows us to do is that puts the client straight away at ease, which is super important, especially if it's a first-time customer, because then they're already going to feel more relaxed around you. They're going to feel more comfortable with you. And then we can move on to our style. So we're going to do the style next. I know some of the guys in Holland still do the sides next and then connect the top. Whereas again, I find that if I cut the style to match my baseline first, well, that's actually allowing me to do is allowing the customer to see almost a finished look within the first 10 minutes of the haircut. If this was a shop environment haircut, then within the first 10 minutes, the whole top's done. That allows the client to feel at ease, because every client, every guy knows what a fade is going to look like, and every barber and hairdresser know that even the best of fades in the world only last 4 days. So this is just how I like to work. I'm not saying it's the best, but I'm just saying for me, it works, and that's how I enjoy doing it. So again, guys, I said to you earlier, we're going to make triangles to make squares. So I've just come up from my foundation into the top of where my part is going to be on the opposite side. And we're just going to simply do some diagonal cutting just to connect. So you see my graduation there. You can see my angle of which I'm going to cut it. Nice and easy. Coming down. See my angle? Look at the way my fingers are coming. I'm tapering into the head as I cut the hair. And we'll just pick those hairs up. You can see it's already starting to come in to that angle. Do we have any questions, Franz or Brad? Well, Brad, not you actually, not allowed to say anything. Franz, do we have any questions, thoughts, criticism, worries, concerns? All the above.
No, looking good, Paul. There's no one's asked any questions just yet. I think they're enjoying what they're seeing.
Oh, jolly good then. So, I made my way round to the side now. I'm going to take the remainder of the hair that's coming across. And now we talk about elevation. There's 3 key points of elevation. If I wanted to keep it as square as possible, I'd drag everything down to match my base. If I want to take away weight and length, I'm going to go 90 degrees. If I go above that, it's going to make it super soft, and it's actually going to curve and round off everything too much, which we don't really want to do on a classic haircut. If you're doing more of a creative, modern, sort of forward haircut, absolutely, why not? But so what I'm going to do is just come out 90 degrees from the hair's natural growth pattern. I'm going to attach that to the side of the head where the ear is. Just pulling out horizontally. And then as we get in front of the ear, this is where we can be super creative and retain the length that we'd like. So, if you guys can see, what we've got here is we've got those top layers attached into our baseline, and then this asymmetric fringe here. I'm a boring sort of chap. I like rules, so I know that if I cut and blend everything behind the ear, whatever I do in front of the ear will always work. So if I brush this hair back, I'll bet you 50 British pounds it all blends. And look at that. Right, somebody owes me some money. I don't care which one of you it is. Pay it. On the opposite side, guys, of where the actual parting is, remember on this side, I did horizontal elevation just to take away weight and length, so it's not too heavy sitting down, but still keeping it at 90 degrees because that's always that safe spot. So I'm going to do exactly the same on my parted side. I'm just going to elevate it 90 degrees from the head just to tidy everything up, reduce that little bit of weight before I even need to use my blending scissors. So again, as you can see, it all sits back. Right, now this is important because that is the exterior of my haircut done. And now the client, if he was a new client, you can see the shape we're going for before I even cut any of the real lengths on the top. The connections are all there, so therefore the exterior of my haircut is already completed. I can brush this back, he can see it in the mirror, he's like, yeah, that looks pretty fucking cool, dead happy with that. And I'm like, yeah, it is pretty cool, right? So we can now move on to the interior of our haircut. Now, to decide how much length to take off, if the client is having a trim, we're going to come up through, and remember how we found the what's it called? I've literally lost my train of thought. Well, we've got asymmetric, there we go, with the fringe to tie it through from that here. That's actually going to give us the length of what to take off. If you see there and here, that the hairs are starting to drop off. So that short bit there, that's my length. Right, is that all right? Oh, jolly good. There we go, look at that. So in theory, the client hasn't had to open his mouth and say how much to take off because we've already decided that length by doing our asymmetric fringe. Now I'm just going to attach everything in from the back here, short bit from my elevation earlier. Again, it's already telling me how much to take off the back, so it smooths in that middle area. And now if you wanted to, you could have done a profile section to help determine the length and graduate everything in back, but because of how we did our fringe, I can already see exactly where it needs to be. On this side of the part, we're going to go straight up, dead straight, just to make sure we're lifting from the head. So that these hairs here are longer than the interior hairs. So as you can see, to check, and it's already cut nice and perfect. A little smidgen higher, smidgen. There we go. Again, absolutely fine. A little bit there, and a smidgen. There. Now, on the opposite side of the parting, this is where you get like a bit of a choice. It gets a bit of a grace period. If you wanted to make everything super square, you can lift everything in the middle and maybe chop off that a little bit there. If you wanted to just soften it a little bit, you can come out and just cut the smidgen triangle there, which is actually what we're going to do. So that's nice and convenient. And I'm just going to follow that around the head. So when I was finding that, I wasn't coming right out here because that would chop the corner off. So I elevated it almost square and then just took the tips off. And then I'm going to reward myself, brush it all back. I know it's all going to blend in because I've already cut the exterior of my haircut. So I'm working as smart as I can, not as hard as I can. So I know it's always going to lie back and work because it did even before I cut the interior of the haircut. All right. Clip away. I'm going to go in with a number 3 guard just to meet my baseline, just so that I know I have a finishing point. We're going to go shorter than that, but it's to clear away some of the bulk that I couldn't be bothered to do when I was clipping over comb. And what that's going to do is give me that end point, so then I know what is that longest grade that I went to. And I've got sort of like chubby knuckles, so as I was cutting round to double check my baseline, I know my fingers are about a 3. And as you can see, remember when I said earlier that it blends in when we brushed it back? That 3 is pretty much, I would say 90% blended. And then it's required 0 double checking, triple checking, going back and forth. Again, guys, for me, I want to work as efficiently as possible and smart as possible rather than as hard as possible. All right, now I've cleared the majority of my bulk. I can do a little bit of refining. So I can see here, I'm not too sure I like this little bit there. So I'm just going to section everything out of the way just to make sure. And yeah, you can see that just here, where it dips down ever so slightly. I haven't quite made that following the shape of his head, I've gone down. So it's an easy thing to it's an easy thing to correct. So I can just follow that head shape and just tighten that in there a little bit. Beautiful. Jolly good. Alright guys, so we're going to go for number 1. That way it's long enough that we can retain our own sideburns without taking it too short and in having, say, like sideburns, say skin, and then hair. So we don't want that. We want everything to be quite like smooth and fluid as possible. So what I might do actually is I might do a half, 1.5 on the sideburns just to like retain them. And then switch it to a 1. And I'm going to go just shy of the temple area, because then that gives me about 1 inch worth to blend down. I'm just following that all the way around the head. Again, the key thing to note, guys, is that while Ryan's been sitting here as a client, he's able to have seen the style, the top of his haircut throughout the whole process. This is why I prefer working baseline to style, and then we'll fit the sides into that style. Because that way he's relaxed. He can see that the transition's done. He can see the style's done. The client, especially if they're a new client, is now totally secure in knowing you're going to do the best job you can for them, and they're not going to walk away with like a dodgy haircut after they've tried something new. Right, guys. So if we start on this side, I like fading in 4 process of 4, just because if I stand here, and if you have the camera over my shoulder there, Brad, if I stand here, all I can see is this. So everything on that other side is completely irrelevant to me. And you know, guys, I said that I started with that number 3, right? When I did my clipper work, I'm now going to go in logically and think, right, the next possible shortest thing it can be is a 2.5 or a 2 open. So that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to go in just underneath. With my 2 all the way open. Then a 2 closed. My 1.5 guard all the way open. My 1.5 guard closed. Right, and then my 1 guard. Right, so 1 guard is extremely significant because those 3 millimeters, right, that's the difference between hairs being short enough that they're horizontal and long enough if you opened a 1 all the way to when the hair is vertical, which means that they're going to lie on top of each other and make it look fuller. That's why a lot of people that have, say, skin fades, they come in quicker because to them it's grown out so fast it doesn't take long to come out. All that is there is that the hairs are actually just going from horizontal to lying down. So therefore, because they're covering more of a surface area, it's appearing it's actually growing longer because it's shorter, which is silly, isn't it, if you think about it? The hair doesn't know that you've gone shorter or longer. So, 1 all the way open. And I'm just taking out that bottom line that we made with our 1 guard closed. Then my 1-2 clicks, 1, 2. Again, that's why I really like using Babblers because I know it's safe and secure. I know 2 clicks with a 1 will always fade into a 1 all the way open, and then closed. Just to refine, detail those corners. Right, now, if there's still a bit of a line or heavy spots, instead of guessing where it is, if you guess, then there's a risk of going too high with a certain grade, and then you have to fade everything higher, essentially ruining the haircut, and you have to start again. So to refine it, I always like to work down, because I like to think of what it possibly can be versus what it possibly isn't. So I now know it wasn't a 2 open or a 2 closed. 1.5 guard all the way open. Let's refine it and have a look. There we go, I can hear it. There we go. So again, guys, it's using that ability to listen to what the clippers are doing. And then my 1 all the way open. Just using those corners. 2 clicks, 1, 2. Closed. Cool. Now we can move on. Right, now I'm going to do the back area in real time, so you see like how it is like in more of a shop environment. But again, the same principles apply. If I'm stood here, all I can see is this. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be refining this area whilst doing this area. So if you think about it in terms of numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I can't see 4, and I can only see a little bit of 3, so I'm not really interested, but all my prime focus is here. So 2.5. 2 closed. And as you see, I'm sort of coming back into where I've already faded, just so to make sure everything is consistent with one another. 1.5 guard all the way open. One and a half guard closed. One guard all the way open. Two clicks. Closed. Cool, Brad, are you able to zoom right in on that bit there? So you can see, nice and refined, no lines. That puts me in a great position, guys, because then I can move on confidently to panel number 3. What I'm essentially doing, guys, is I'm rewarding myself as I go. This is super important because I'm sure we've all had days where if we do 10 haircuts, 5 we like, 3 are good, 2 we know we could have done better. So by working in a process that rewards you as you go, so you don't just get that sense of achievement at the end of the haircut, you're going to feel great at least 9 out of 10 times, and then 1 was good. You're never going to think, oh, that bit could have been better, that bit could have been better, because you're not allowing yourself to move on until you're totally confident on how you like that area. So again, 2 more times. This is why fading is boring, because fading is all technique. I mean, and I'm just not very good at it, so I say it's boring. So that was the 2 open, 2 closed. 1.5 guard all the way open. 1.5 guard closed. Franz, how are we doing?
Oh, looking great. I was just giving you a moment to get your I guess the basics figured out for everybody on guards and what numbers to be on. So I didn't want to interrupt you there. You got some friends from all over the world, and we have a question from a friend that jumped in about the 20th minute. Was asking. I didn't want to answer for you, but I have a good idea. But what haircut are we doing today?
Oh, sorry guys. Yeah, so we are doing that classic side part. It's a fantastic haircut. The executive contour is a fantastic haircut. If you have a client maybe that has slightly finer hair on top, wants to go a little bit shorter on the sides, but still has that really cool sort of classic look to them. And like I said earlier at the start, I've known Ryan for a couple of years now. I know what style is. I know what he's into. You know, he fixes and mends cars. He does up cars. He does it vans. Is it a truck last time you were working on? Just vans, yeah. So hey, he does it all. So I know he's into that kind of like look and that sort of 50s sort of image. So it's a great haircut to do. That's going to allow that and transcribe into like his daily life and what he's into.
Cheers. Thank you. And just so you know, you've got some of your fellow Scumbassadors watching today. George, Steph, Lawrence, all checking in.
Oh, well, I hope you guys doing well, George, Lawrence, and Steph. George and Lawrence, you know, really sorry I can't join you guys in Chicago. Would have been amazing, but unfortunately, because we are, even though we're at the tail end of the old COVID, you know, it is still there. And unfortunately, embassies have to get involved to fly, and it's just, no. I just want to be free, man. I just want to go on a nice holiday to Bora Bora. Reality is it's probably going to be Butlins. So again, last time, guys, doing that 2 open, 2 closed. One and a half guard all the way open. One and a half guard closed. And once again, if anyone is interested, yeah, I'm just using the British Fabulous today as opposed to my pink American ones. And really the main difference is the blade. You can see it's almost like a sort of wedge blade, so it's not quite totally flat, but it's not a tapered blade either, which suits me perfectly. I do love my American clippers, pink and black ones. Brad, if you want to have a little look there. But they're starting to chip away now, and unfortunately we don't get the custom effects in England. So if I wanted another pair, you've got to pay the Americans a lot of money. But we're nearly there, guys, and then I'm just going to do some more refined work. Again, it means so much to get asked to do this again, guys. I know Reuzel has an amazing team at the minute. We have amazing Scumbassadors from all over the planet. So it's amazing that they're doing with this education, doing it for free. And just a nice way for you guys to get an insight into how we like to work. Because I imagine it's like the haircuts, you know. We do the same haircuts, we all do it slightly differently. We all have our own little quirks and quirks and just different personalities to come through on the haircut. So I'm going to be tapering now, guys. So again, remember I said I like Fabulous because of the clips. So to start my taper, I'm going to go with a 0.5 guard closed. Every gentleman has a slight McDonald's end to it. You know, the Nate Wells at the back. So to start with, I'm going to put my half guard closed just above those Nate Wells. What that's going to allow me to do is have a smoother taper and a smoother transition. Right, what do I know that blends into the half guard? 2 clicks. So, 2 clicks, going just underneath where we left off. 1 click, just going underneath that, and closed. Again, guys, that's why I love working with the Fabulous stuff with Reuzel, because it just makes my life so much easier. And again, I keep saying it, for me, it's about trying to work as efficiently as possible rather than being like, all right, how do I do this? What do I do? Instead of overthinking it, I'm trusting in the process, I'm trusting in my own ability. Again, to get into a number 1, I know it's the half guard, 1, 2 clicks. And this is just going to fade right in to where we did that one guard. And again, it's not to say that Andis isn't any good or Wall isn't any good or anything like that. It's simply personal preference. But for me and someone that is fortunate enough to be an educator, to me it just makes more sense to try and work as efficiently as possible. Alright, we're going to start Ryan's lineup. So if we come here, I don't want to get rid of that because I don't know if he's going to have a shave later, but I'm just going to tidy it a little bit. And I'm going to use the English trimmer, again from Babyliss. I think it's probably the only clipper they've done, that the British one's the better one. I actually rate this one over the Gold FX. So I'm going to use the corners, look. And again, I'm just going to draw. I'm like that famous guy that did the paintings on like the TV, you know, he's like, I'm just going to add a little bit of purple here, just here. Is that guy? Bob Ross, thank you. So I'm doing that. You see, I'm just gonna add a little bit of a curve there, just like that. Sorry. And I'm gonna hit that hairline. I'm not gonna push it back. I'm just gonna hit it. Yeah. Jolly good. And again, I'm just using the corners, gonna draw around his ear. I'm not pushing the hair back. I'm simply following and allowing what the hair's allowing me to take off. I'm using my finger on his ear, not to actually push the ear down, but I'm using it as a pivot. Again, it just reminds me of that scene from Friends. You know, they carry the sofa upstairs. It's like, pivot. So, and I just follow him down naturally on his hairline there. Again, I'm following it straight down because what I don't want to happen is I don't want to give him a light bulb where you take this too far in and it just looks terrible. So, by going straight down, it takes away all those worries. And we enjoyed that side so much, we're going to do it again. So again, guys, I'm just going to use the corners here. And we're going to come up and around. Just following that around. And then I'm going to hit the hairline. Brush all the loose ones out of the way. Lovely. Again, guys, I'm just going to follow that hairline straight down. Even if it's not terribly visible towards the bottom of the taper, that shows you've actually done like a good taper. If that line is visible all the way down, then we've messed up somewhere on the taper, because it should be able to sort of almost go invisible, and then you start to see the line and then follows all the way around the head. Right, blow dry. I'm actually going to blow dry with our fibre cream. Now, this is a great product because if I use, say, too much of the grooming tonic, it could make it overly shiny, and that way then it's going to attract more light onto the top and show that it's slightly finer there. So we're going to use just a smidgen. Again, I don't know if that's used anywhere else in the world, but a smidgen. Franz, do you say smidgen in America or no?
We actually cut it down because we're lazy. We call it a smidge.
Oh, a smidge. It's a bit lazy, actually, isn't it? Just add that extra syllable.
True.
So, yeah, I'm just applying it into his hair loosely. You know, I'm not forcing it. I'm just loosely putting it in, so we're going to do a little bit of blow drying. Just a little bit. Now, again, this isn't to say that the hair gets finished. It's like, now I want to see what it looks like now it's dry. But remember, when the hair was wet, I noticed everything flew back and flowed back nicely. So I'm working with that added sense of security. That way then, I'm confident that everything's going to flow exactly how I want it to. You know, it would really help if I turn the plug on. So, I'm going to start with my parted side, just create a little bit of lift. I call it a Superman, and I've asked hairdressers, and because I draw an S to get the lift, Apparently, there's not a name for that. If there is a name for that, please let me know. Otherwise, it's a registered trademark to Reuzel/me called Superman. As you guys can see, everything is laid down lovely, everything flows back lovely, and I knew it would before I even did anything because I checked it when the hair was wet. If the hair wet would allow me to do whatever I wanted to do, then I know no matter what product I put into his hair, it's going to allow me to do the same. I'm just going to do a little bit of scissor overcoming my scissors first, and then I'll move on to my blenders. Just to soften that transition just a little bit more. Because remember, I pulled out to 90 degrees when I was softening it earlier, so not quite as much as if I pulled right out and up. Using that elevation, whereas obviously it would have been even heavier if I pulled all of those hairs down to my baseline. Again, guys, I'm thinking about the haircut. I'm thinking what's going to suit my client, what style is going to suit my client. I'm thinking about all those things rather than just be on autopilot of, right, I know how to cut a side part, I know how to cut a pompadour. It's like what I try and teach at the minute when I do one-to-ones or classes with Reuzel is I'm trying to teach you guys like how to ask why. Why would I do this? Why does this work? What, even if you've done it for 20 years, like if I said, why does it work what you do? Or are you just like, oh, I'm just on autopilot, I know it works. Honestly, ask yourselves that, like, why does something you do always work? So put it in the comments and Franz will have a read. Again, I would like to apologize, guys, if you're watching from a country that doesn't speak English. Unfortunately, I barely know any other languages. Dutch maybe a little bit, but not enough to do a full demo on.
You're speaking the international language of barbering with your hands, man. It usually is not a problem for anyone. When we do classes in Spanish and Polish and Russian and Dutch, everyone has no problem understanding what's going on because barbering is an international language.
Yeah, I like it, and it's one of not to blow smoke up Rob's ass because I know he gets it a lot, but one of the things that he says that I really like is the good things about working with your hands is you can't lie with your hands, you can only lie with your mouth. So I actually really like that one, so I've stolen that one off him. The thing that I'm using now, guys, is my Mitsutani Score and Reuzel blending scissors, and it's just softening that transitions a little bit. Fun fact, I was actually the guinea pig for the left-handed version, and I'm sure they won't mind me saying it was really hard because the first set that I got, something went wrong, they weren't quite perfect, and I had to sort of say I'm really sorry, but they need looking at again. And Mitsutani was so good, they were like, yeah, no problem at all, we'll take your feedback. And then they came back with a whole new model, and this is the same set I've had now for 4 years. Never needed sharpening, never needed any work done to it, still glide through the hair perfect. So if you are going to invest in your tools, guys, it will help you be more efficient, and yeah, Mitsutani all the way, even if you're left-handed. All right, styling. Because I want to go for more of a drier look, I'm actually going to go with the cocktail. I'm going to use Mitsutani. That's not Mitsutani, that's Reuzel. I'm going to use Reuzel Extreme Matte Hold, which I was one of the people that developed this one, so if you like it, you are welcome. And I'm going to mix that with the fiber. Again, these two products working together are amazing, just because the fiber is going to help make the hair a bit more fuller, and the Extreme Hold is just going to give me that little bit more strength to play with and style how I like. But I'm going to put them together with a twist, because what I'm actually going to be doing, guys, is I'm going to blow dry it in. That way then, it's going to heat the products up, make it more malleable. And that way then, it's going to break them down a little bit so I can do with whatever I like. The thing that I really like about these products, guys, is they come off your hands white. So a lot of guys might just put like a dollop on their hair there, but you're going to see, because it's white on your hair, you're going to see that you need to work that in. You're going to need to sort of like emulsify it in the hair. And this is great because it's going to help guys that aren't very good at doing their hair. I mean, Brian's very good at doing his own hair, they're better than me. But what this does is that it forces guys to then like actually distribute the product evenly in the hair. So that is my top tip for the day, is to make sure you emulsify the products in your client's hair if you're going to try and blow drying it in. Once I've dried it in, I'm going to use a little bit of the cold button just to secure it. And again, what I love about that is it like locks in the hair. So if you think of your hair as like a plastic, when it's hot, it's malleable, you can move it around. When it's cold like a plastic, it locks everything into place. Therefore, you don't really need to have that hairspray because everything is getting locked in. And if you see what I'm doing, is even though it's going to come across this side, I'm blow drying it the opposite way. This is going to come into my styling at the very end. You're going to see why. Okay, I'm going to take my Afro pick and I'm just going to work the product through the hair. So I'm just making sure, again, this is a great tool for simply distributing product, making sure you've covered all bases of the hair. Now, the reason I was blow drying cold to the other side, you see how I've got that nice little ring natural lift there? It's a great way of styling it if your client is worried about like a recession line or anything like that, because that drop, actually one looks stylistic, so it looks like it's meant to be there. And B, if I wanted to use this as a photo shoot, how easy is it to really enhance that and curve that right in? But simply as an idea, just to give you guys a simple way of like blow drying, if you're trying to achieve that look, or you might have a customer that's a little bit more conscious of their recession lines. It's a great little thing to do because that way then it's going to look softer, it's going to look smoother. And then again, I'm going to go in with my brush and then I'm just going to ever so light and delicate, just comb through those brush lines, getting them as consistent as possible. I am pretty much done here. Do we have any questions, follow-ups, concerns, criticisms, worries? Or just how your day's going?
So yeah, Paul. Pretty much everyone is just giving you kudos, man, saying it looks beautiful. You've got a couple people saying nice shirt on the wall.
Yeah, he's a national treasure.
What one individual said? Here, hold on. Sorry. He was hoping for Ronaldo 7 on the board.
That's so ridiculous.
I know. Well, you got some interactive fans, so that's good.
It was worth a go. But no, it's cool. Ronaldo's in the Premier League, but we've got the amazingly talented Dutchman Virgil van Dijk, and I'm pretty confident he can handle Ronaldo. Probably not, but we'll see. Right, guys. So, on that note, I've been Paul Taylor-Clinch. This has been my executive contour. Brad has been in the mirror filming. Wait to the people, Brad.
Well, you're in the way.
Oh, my. There we go. And I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day, evening, afternoon. And in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
Cheers.